Welcome back, everybody, to the 2017 NRA Convention, and we're at the Viridian Just the Facts stage, and I'm here again with Rob Pincus. Rob, how you doing today?
Great, man. It's been a great weekend, and as always, Sunday morning starts out a little slow, but it also gives us more time to talk to people, more people spending time in the booth, and more time for me to go around and actually see some of the other booths that I haven't gotten to. So I'm always glad to be here on that last day.
Yesterday was so hectic. It was crazy.
It was crazy. It was.
Yeah, we had I.C.E here, and we probably had 150 people straight out all the way to the tractors yesterday listening to him. I mean, just what a dynamic guy, you know.
And he's been around. He's been doing this, probably twice as long as I have, I think. And on the national scene that long, people really have come to respect and appreciate everything he has to say. And if they get a chance to hear him from the stage live, I know they're going to stop and listen.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was very good. Well, with that, what are your big takeaways from this convention this year?
It's been interesting. I mean, we're here to talk about training and obviously Personal Defense Network. That's what we do. But there's no doubt that this year is an interesting time in the industry. It's an interesting time for the community. The NRA has launched their new Carry Guard program, an insurance program that eventually is going to be supported by a training program. There's a lot of talk about it. There's a lot of interesting ways the NRA has positioned themselves relative to other companies that are also in that insurance business. And obviously, that's a big part of the buzz. The election this year, the 76th seat, was probably as contested as it's been. John Cushman, I understand, did win that position. But Adam Kraut, a younger guy, new guy, really big on the Hearing Protection Act, big on getting firearms education into the public schools. He ran a great campaign, but he didn't make it. But again, he's going to continue to work. He's going to continue to do a lot of things. For me, when I come here at the NRA meeting, we got to remember this is a lot about the politics. It's a lot about the fight that we have to regain our Second Amendment rights. And one of the big messages that I'm spreading this year is this is a lot about our states' organizations now. We know that federally right now we can gain ground, and NRA, Second Amendment Foundation, these companies, these kind of entities are going to help us on the national level. But we got to support our state rights organizations. This fight is at the state level. As far as gear. Of course, Springfield announced their new gun, the hammer-fired gun, not something people were expecting. I call it retro tactical, but there are a lot of people out there that still want a hammer on their gun. They want a decocker, they want a safety, and that gun is incredibly engineered. It's done really well. It's not the kind of thing I want, but there are plenty of people out here, I'm sure, who are interested in a hammer-fired single-stack defensive gun, and there's one there. I saw a pretty interesting 308 breakdown rifle that if in a tactical environment, certainly for military guys, maybe some law enforcement teams that are going to be putting a spotter, observer, sniper, precision rifle, marksman, whatever you want to call them, into a position that he's got to get into and get out of a little bit more sneakily. That breakdown 308 was interesting. Saw that moving around. The Founders series at Crossbreed Holsters is really cool. A very nice tribute to Mark Craighead, who we lost several years ago. Taking his classic original holster designs and just putting a really high-grade leather on it with some great tanning, some great color. I'm wearing one of their belts now. A lot of people don't realize they do belts, and I'm really looking forward to doing one of their belts in this new Founders series collection because it's going to be a beautiful piece of work. And the holsters obviously are just as good as the regular ones. They're just a little prettier. So it's some cool things going on at the NRA show.
Yeah, it's been great. The exhibitors have been fantastic. They're very open, welcoming to everybody, and it's been a lot of fun to be here all week. Well, we've already talked about I.C.E. We've talked about combat-focused shooting and training and all that. Now let's talk about PDN a little bit.
Yeah, Personal Defense Network. Of course, Viridian, we're proud to have you guys involved with us at PDN. This is, I think it's the third year you guys have been sponsors of the Personal Defense Network training tour that I'm in the middle of. And we'll hit about 30 states. We've got 105 classes. I've got about a dozen other instructors besides me. Mike Seeklander's working with us, Craig Douglas, Caleb Causey doing medical stuff, Andrew Bronca doing the legal stuff. And what the tour is, and why it's so great to have Viridian involved in the tour is sort of our centerpiece of our mission, which is to bring training to as many people as possible. And the highlight of that, obviously, is live training. People getting into a classroom and asking questions with the professor, people getting into the field and actually doing the practice with the tourniquet and packing a wound and things they do with Caleb, getting out on the range with me or Seeklander or Craig Douglas and actually going through the physical skills that you go through when you're developing that defensive shooting ability. So whether it's the combat-focused shooting program or what Seeklander's teaching or what Craig Douglas is doing, actually getting hands-on time, that's the best way to do it. The tour lets us do that, but not so many people can do that. Not everybody's going to do that. It's time, it's money. Maybe you don't even have the interest to do that yet, but PDN, going to www.personaldefensenetwork.com, you get free videos, hundreds of free videos and articles on all kinds of training information, whether it's medical, home security, firearms selection, accessories, things like this, the tactics, the tips, the training model. And then we also then offer the premium memberships. And the premium memberships, you get access to a little more. Then we offer the gold memberships. And the gold memberships, you get a little bit more. I do my live events, a live Q&A every month. Grant Cunningham does our training talk show every couple of weeks. Personal Defense Network grew out of the Personal Defense DVD series that we launched with Second Amendment Foundation and Guns and Ammo as partners to distribute those in 2005. 2006, we joined up with the NRA, and there's something like 6 or 7 million of those DVDs have been distributed over the last 12 years. And through those articles, through those videos, through those live events, through the DVDs, TV show appearances, things like this, we can reach so many more people than we would if we just waited for people to come to classes. And we just only talked to the people that could afford to spend, you know, $1,000, $1,500 on the ammo and the tuition and the hotels and the travel for a weekend of training. And that's not fair, it's not right, it's not what we're all about. We want to spread this information out as much as we can. And sponsors like Viridian and our other partners allow Personal Defense Network to reach even more people, and that's really our mission.
So you've got, we've talked through these three training disciplines, or with PDN, with I.C.E, and with combat-focused shooting. Now let's talk about having to apply it in the worst-case scenario. Not just from the aspect of the person who's taken your classes, but also as far as them turning around and almost like a trainer thing, you're taking them and now they're going home and they're teaching their family how to be safe. In the worst case scenario would be maybe an active shooter scenario in a mall, a church, some place like that. Let's talk about the whole fight, flight, hide scenario in an active shooter situation.
Yeah, you know, the federal government has put out the mantra of run, hide, fight.
Yep.
Our terminology is evade, barricade, and respond as appropriate. We really take this information out of our home defense program, and we talk about working with the family. You know, one of the things that we tell people, our home defense tactics is 5 components. It's evade, be in a position the bad guy can't hurt you. If you can get away, get away. Barricade, get to a position where it's harder for the bad guy to get to you, right? Make it harder for the bad guy to get into a position to hurt you. And then respond as appropriate is the final step. You fight when you need to. If you have a gun, you're going to be able to fight better in most situations. If you have a frying pan, at least you can fight. If you have nothing but your teeth and your claws, use that, right? Fight in any way you can when you need to. And the other 2 pieces of the tactics are communicate. Call 911. We go, you know, we talk about what you should tell 911, the emergency services. Communicate with your family. Make sure that you know how to get people where they need to be and that they know there's an emergency. Here's what you need to do. And then maybe even communicate with the bad guy. You know, if the bad guy is, you know, we talk about that axe. If he's chopping the door down and he knows exactly where you are and he's about to get through that door, maybe you let him know, I've got a gun, I'm prepared to use it, the police are on the way, and maybe that guy will stop trying to get into that room. Ultimately, if he gets into the room, you use the gun, you do what you got to do. So with our active shooter program, we skip the communicate and we skip the arm. You're either armed or you're not, right? You aren't going to your staging area to get the gun out of a quick access safe when you're at the mall. You either have it or you don't. And we talk about evade, barricade, and respond as appropriate. Run, hide, fight. These are the 3 very simple ways that you and your family can prepare to deal with something that happens at the mall, something that happens at a convention center, something that happens at a concert. If you can get away, get away. If you can't get away, hide, barricade, put obstacles between you and the bad guy. And ultimately, if the bad guy gets there, be prepared to fight. You know, there's this idea that the good guy, you know, that with the uniform, the good guy with the gun, the good guy with the flashy red and blue lights may not make it in time. And if he doesn't make it in time and you're hiding, waiting for him, that used to be the thing, right? Lockdown. All the kids get in the corner. We're locking the room down. We're going to wait for the bad guys. Wait for the good guys. And unfortunately, you end up waiting for the bad guys all too often. Right. If the bad guy comes in that room and all you're prepared to do is hope the good guy shows up at the last minute, it's not going to go well. We know that. We have the empirical evidence. And we've learned, much in the way the law enforcement community learned after Columbine, that, you know, when I went through the police academy, I was told, as a patrol officer, my job was to form a perimeter in those types of scenarios, right? You went through that era also, where we wait for the professionals. You were on a SWAT team. I served on a SWAT team for a short period of time. We were the guys that were supposed to have these special weapons and tactics to show up and save the day, but the patrol guys were just supposed to stand around outside, make sure no more good guys wandered in, and make sure the bad guys didn't escape. And I'll never forget, 2003, 2004, I was teaching an active shooter response course to law enforcement. This is post-Columbine. And my dad was in law enforcement in the 70s and into the early 80s before he retired. And he's an educator now. He works at a school working with kids that have some disabilities, behavioral problems, things like that. So he's been out of the law enforcement, tactical, executive protection world for a long time. And what are you doing today? And he doesn't think I have a real job, right? Because I don't get a paycheck every day for every week from the government. Right. So I don't have. What are you doing today? What are you doing? Well, I'm teaching active shooter response. What's that? Active shooter? What's that? And I explained, we're teaching the patrol cops what to do if somebody starts shooting up the school. Go in there. And he said, well, what else would they do? What do you mean? I go, and it dawns on me in 1971, 70, when he was going through the police academy, there weren't any SWAT teams, right? There was one out in LA and maybe one in New York, but the SWAT teams weren't a thing, right? By the time I got involved in the 90s, every jurisdiction had a SWAT team. The war on drugs, every sheriff's office was standing up, even if it was multi-jurisdictional. So everybody, even though it was really a raid team, they were setting these teams up and having the policies that they would copy from big places like, where Vegas has a full-time team, right? LA has so many full-time teams. ESU in New York, so many full-time teams that are on standby, as opposed to the counties I would work in, in Tennessee, where you'd have to wait an hour and a half for everybody to gather up, right? If you were going to call out the SWAT team. So we needed to start teaching officers not to stand out there. If kids are getting shot, you got the flashy red and blue lights and the badge for a reason, get in there. And there was a whole generation of law enforcement that was taught not to go in there. Well, that changed everything.
Absolutely. In '99, I'd been a SWAT operator for 3 years by that time, but I watched Columbine play out live on TV, and it's like a doctor that's watching another doctor do a surgery and know he's botching it.
Yeah.
And you're screaming at the TV saying, "What are you doing? Go in there, get in there, start saving some lives." But they're treating it like it was a hostage barricade situation, which it wasn't.
Right.
You've got active loss of life going in there. You've got people dying, falling out of windows, and you can hear the shots and the explosions. You got to get in there and you got to save some lives. So with that, the cops are now trained to get in there as quickly as they can in anywhere from 3 to 5 man teams and go save some lives, step over the ones that are already down, save the ones that haven't been shot yet. But
and that's the luxury of a big city police perspective, right? My sheriff's office, we have 6 guys, and I'm usually not there. I'm traveling the world. We got 4 of us are part-time or reserve, and we got 2 full-time guys in the middle of nowhere in Colorado.
So it's just 2 of you going in.
It's one. If the bang bang happens, you got to go in.
Yeah.
And that's so what happened. So after Columbine, law enforcement learned, and then after Sandy Hook, we started teaching the civilians. You can't hide in the corner and wait. We need to teach you to fight. We need to teach you a mentality of get out of the building. And teachers right away, they're, well, what we can't let the kids leave campus. We're accountable for them. What if they get hit by a car? What if they fall in a lake? You know what? If there's a guy with a gun in your school and the kids can jump out a window and run 3 blocks away, teach them how to cross the street. Yeah. We don't want them where the bad guy is. There was one room at Sandy Hook where the only 4 kids that didn't get killed or seriously injured out of a whole classroom full of elementary school kids were the 4 that ran past the bad guy when the door opened and got out and left campus. We've learned the lesson. We have to teach people proactive strategies to protect themselves until the good guys get there. And I think organizations like the Alert Facility, the Alert Team down in Texas, they've been teaching this since before everybody was. It's before Sandy Hook. And when the police get there, get down, follow the police instructions. But if the police aren't there and you can get away, get away. If you can't get away, barricade. If your barricade fails, pick up the fire extinguisher and some books and a chair and swarm the guy. Do something.
You have to. And as the armed individual responding to it, you've got that obligation. You also have to make sure that however you do engage, that you're not cut down by friendly fire by the time the police get there. Like myself, I'm armed. I always I've got my retired sergeant's badge with me all the time. So no matter what, if I've got a gun on me, I've got my credentials on me so that I can actually show them. The gun's put away. I've got a system. I've already trained myself. This is what I'm going to do to make sure my own guys I used to work with don't cut me down. Right. So, you do something like that, but with my family, it's like, hey, if it's the difference between fight, flight, hide, I want you flying. I want you out of there.
Absolutely.
As fast as you can, because it's your absolute best chance of survival. If my unarmed family members, the people that I love, we've had to have those discussions. It's unfortunate in this day and age that we do have to have those discussions, but we do.
We do. And that's kind of where you started. Now you're like almost train the trainer. How do we empower people to go home and take this information to their family? Well, the first thing I do is I tell people to share the information and have everybody think about it. And that doesn't mean, create a PowerPoint and show your kids at dinner what to do, what you learned in class. You're not the instructor. Just give them the links to PDN. Give them the links to some article I wrote. Give them this book that Walmart sells, our Defend Yourself book on home defense for like $9.95. Like, put that book out and tell the kids to read it. Don't try to teach them something. Let them learn it. And then after you share the information with them, then at the next family dinner or Sunday afternoon after church, then you discuss it.
Yep.
And you share it with them, let them form their own questions, and then discuss it as a group. And if you run into something you don't know, tell them you don't know and send me a Facebook message or talk to some other instructor or do more research. And then your family needs to coordinate. You need to come up with a plan. Your family needs to agree on what they're going to do, where they're going to go. And that plan needs to include some communication, right? I always say you should have some kind of a code, right? Just knocking on a door and saying it's the police, open the door, maybe the bad guy pretending to be a police officer. Now, we can go down into the weeds, but it's real simple with my kids. And I've had a catchphrase where I'm going to, obviously I'm not telling you what the name is, but there's a name, right? The name is this Aunt whoever. So you don't have an Aunt whoever in your family, but when Aunt Sally, you say Aunt Sally's outside, that everybody knows we are leaving the mall. Right? Oh, Aunt Sally's at the door. That means you can let me in, right? Aunt Sally's over here, or oh, that was Aunt Sally, guys. We all need to go do this instead. And the kids know, even if we were going to go to the mall and buy new school clothes, or they were excited to go see a movie, or there was their favorite restaurant they were going to go to, if there's a bunch of guys standing on the corner that I don't want to walk by with my family, I say, oh, guys, Aunt Sally, I think she's over here at this place. We're going to cross the street and go over there.
Good call.
And they respond to that. And that's a real simple tip that we can do, right? We can have that out there for people to understand communication inside of your family. You can plan ahead. You can coordinate. It doesn't have to be screaming and panicking and improvised in the moment because you're a family. Work with your workplace, your coworkers, your best friends. And then, of course, the idea that once you make a plan, you got to walk through it. So you share it, you think about it, you discuss it, you make a plan, then you walk through your plan, and then eventually you can even do fire drill type things, right? Okay, kids, the alarm's going off, and where are you going to go, right? Or you have your brother-in-law FaceTime you, right? So say anytime on Sunday afternoon between 4 and 9 p.m., 4 p.m., 9 p.m., FaceTime me, and if you really need me, FaceTime me twice because I'm going to ignore it the first time. But now you don't even know. Now you have your family has a plan, your FaceTime rings, and you tell the family, hey guys, emergency drill. I call it imminent home invasion. Some guy shows up at the door and he's pounding on the door saying he wants to hurt your family. You catch somebody trying to break in through the back door with a screwdriver. The alarm goes off because somebody breaks the glass. What's the family do? And sometimes you're in the kitchen, sometimes you're on the couch, sometimes you're already in bed. You got to have a plan. And if you don't practice that plan, just like they practice the fire drills, we haven't had a kid die in over 50 years, I think 60 years in the American school systems because we do fire drills, because we practice them, because we have a plan. We have fire extinguishers, we have sprinklers, there's other reasons, but that helps the plan be executed in the moment when you practice it. We know this. We do it as armed professionals all the time. Do it with your family. Share the information, make a plan, and walk through it, and then run simulations with a little stress.
Well, training gives you those things in your grab bag that are going to keep you alive, but if you reach into that bag and there's nothing there because you never trained it, then that's when panic sets in. And when panic sets in, that's when we freeze. And when we freeze in a situation like that, that's when we're going to get killed.
Right. Got to do something. And
you got to do something, and it's so important, and you already touched on it, that it's not just about reading something or it's not just about the discussion, but when you have your family at the mall, okay, let's say something happened right now. Where would we all go?
Yep.
If we're at the movie theater, have you guys already seen where the exits are yet? Have you looked around? Have you made a plan, like if shots go off, how you're going to get down to that exit? And that's not paranoia. That's just proper planning. And that's just teaching your family to be vigilant in this day and age when that becomes so important.
And you can make a game out of it. You know, it's for the kids that are 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. It can be fun for them to you know, where's another exit from, except not the one we came in. Where is there another exit?
Yep.
And they just start thinking about it, and it becomes second nature. It becomes something that they always think about. You know, you go into a restaurant. Well, if you don't see an exit, but you see the kitchen door, there's almost always an exit on the other side of that kitchen. That's where they bring the stuff in the refrigerator, and they have an emergency exit, for fire exit probably for the people in the kitchen. So if you don't see the exit, it's through the kitchen. Go through the kitchen, if nothing else.
Absolutely. Well, Rob, it's been great having you here all 3 days.
Yeah,
man, we found stuff to talk about all 3 days.
We did.
Everybody out there, please go and see this man. Go and get some training from this man. You absolutely will not regret it. It'll absolutely save your life. Rob, thank you so much for being here. And remember, I.C.E., Personal Defense Network, and Combat Focused Shooting. And this is the man. Thanks a lot,
Awesome.
Rob.
Thank you, John.
All right. Thank you.